Hi, guys. Welcome to Parawoman Radio. I'm Amy. Nichol Kessinger, the sexy empanada in the Watts case. Some may say she was alluring in Chris Watts' eyes only. Lately, there's been a lot of buzz surrounding her involvement in the case. But this topic always seems to be buzzing, but it seems to be getting a little bit louder lately. So, what are your thoughts? Did the mistress manipulate the situation? Was Chris capable of orchestrating his own actions? I see both sides. On one hand, he seemed like a complete fool who couldn't pull it all together to save his own life. He would have needed to have a mastermind. But on the other hand, he did commit heinous acts which require a certain level of evil. So I don't know. Let's explore this further. I'm going to roll some credits while we wait for the rest of the Watts Island boaters to arrive. Shout out to my replay crew and my dragonflies. Did you have a good Christmas, my loves? Be sure to give this live a thumbs up. Helps me go out into the algorithm party out there. Bring more people back to the party. It's just a free way to help. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the sexy empanada, Nichol Kessinger. Evidence that is revealing that Nichol Kessinger's involvement. I don't know if it's true or not, but we're going to look into it. What do you guys think? Do you think she was involved? I flip-flop. Sometimes I'm like, yes, she was involved. And then other times I'm like, well, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. And then other times I'm like, yes, she was involved. So let's see where I'll be after this. So what we do here is we will put the link to everything we view during this live down in the YouTube show notes. Often I will speed things up. I'll talk over it. I won't show everything in its entirety. I do this for fair play use, but never you fear. We always cite our sources here. So this is Behind Criminal Minds. They do seem to do a lot of Watts stuff, and they seem to be doing this deep dive series. Chris Watts' New Evidence reveals Nichol Kessinger's involvement.
Chris Watts' former cellmate Dylan Tallman released a new book series that claimed Nichol Kessinger was directly involved in the crimes that Watts committed on August 13th, 2018.
My name is Dylan Tallman. And my DOC number is 504789. And Chris Watts is my brother and my co-author.
Tallman's books offer new insight into the potential motivations and mindset of Chris Watts, providing us the first detailed accounting of Kessinger's purported influence leading up to the crimes. With the books even going on to assert Nichol's alleged involvement in the crimes themselves, making the claim that she was present at Survey 319 the morning of August 13th. In today's video, we will continue our deep dive analysis through the timeline of events, relying on the primary evidence and supported facts surrounding the case. And after providing you with a clear picture of what we know happened, we will contrast the evidence against the backdrop of Tallman's version of events, leaving it to you to decide if his new claims ring true, with the ongoing hope that as we continue to uncover each layer of the evidence, that justice will soon have its day. This is In Search of the Truth, part 2 of the Chris Watts Deep Dive series. When we last met, we revisited the final 2 weeks leading up to the morning of August 13th, 2018. The discovery records provided insight into the trials and tribulations that Shanann faced during that time, as she desperately tried to find a way to restore a marriage that Chris was already bound and determined to destroy. But just out.
Okay, so it looks like I'm coming into a part 2, but it doesn't look like it matters because hopefully at the end of this, they will wrap it up like they said they would.
Hours after Chris would enact his cruel.
Be sure to give this live a thumbs up. It helps us go out into the algorithm, party out there, bring more people back. It's just a free way to help me out.
And unfathomable crimes, His vain attempts at secrecy would unravel under the weight of Shanann's family and friends, who from the very beginning would not relent. They were determined to hold Chris Watts accountable for the truly monstrous acts that he had already committed. But it's in this retrospective that we remember and affirm that no victim deserves the crimes perpetrated against them, and no amount of influence.
Let's see if I can move us forward to get us more towards the end where we want to be. Because I have a few more videos I want to look at as well. This isn't our only video tonight.
Absent of any meaningful contrition for his actions, was about to be put on full display the evening of August 13th, when he would get on the phone with Nichol Kessinger for the last and final time. In 2015, I underwent a major spine surgery after a serious car accident that completely totaled my vehicle. Just days after my surgery, the insurance adjuster called to tell me that they would not be covering the cost of my expensive surgery. Despite the fact that I had provided the insurance company everything that they had asked for, and the fact that the accident wasn't my fault, the adjuster made the decision that my medical bills would not be covered. One of the dark secrets about many insurance companies is that they will go to great lengths to avoid paying you what your case is worth, and away from potentially changing. Just after 9:48 on August 13th, the day of the crime, Chris Watts called Nichol Kessinger, and the two would initially speak for about 50 minutes. 30 minutes later, Nichol would call Chris this time, and they would speak for 52 minutes. Later that night, from 12:08 to 2:18 a.m., the two would speak off and on for an additional 54 minutes. And to those counting, that would mean that from 9:48 p.m. until 2:18 a.m., a span of just about 6 hours, Chris and Nichol spoke for a combined total of 2 hours and 36 minutes. And just wait.
And so this what makes me lean towards she did something, because, and yet she couldn't remember 2 hours and 36 minutes of conversation, but she can remember their conversation from 6 weeks ago or whatever.
Wait till you hear what Nichol Kessinger says when she's asked to recall their discussion that evening.
On Monday night, so a couple things. I told you he had texted me, and then at the end of the night, he had called, or I called. I think he called me, but either way, we were on the phone with each other. And at some point when we were on the phone, he was like, do you want to FaceTime? And I remember I was laying in bed, and I was just like, you know what? Okay, let me turn on the light. And I remember I turned on the light, and we FaceTimed. And when we FaceTimed, he didn't really say much. It was almost kind of awkward. I don't even know why I didn't think of this earlier, but it was very short too. It was super brief. And
what's short?
What is short about 2 hours and 36 minutes? That's torture for me to be on the phone for that long.
Short, like a couple of minutes or 30 minutes?
Oh, no, I thought it was only probably less than 5 minutes. I think it was only a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Now, without context, listening to Nichol's interviews with Detective Kobach can be so deceptively benign. If you didn't know the details surrounding that evening and everything leading up to it, if all you heard was her talking about her conversations with Chris that night, I could understand why many people made the wrong first impression and assumed that she was not involved. But as they say, the devil's in the details. So let's keep listening.
I think we were talking a little bit, but he was laying down on a mattress that didn't have any sheets on it. And I was like, okay. So I was thinking well, maybe he's in bed. I don't know what's up. But I remember asking him where's your sheets? And he's like, oh, I washed them.
If she were involved in it, she would know that he was washing them because what happened on the bed. So I just think it's just a weird and very elaborate thing to include, just out of the blue. Oh yeah, now I remember he was laying on the bed with no sheets on it. Why? If I don't know.
And then this is the part I don't remember if this sentence right here came in the FaceTime conversation or if it came in a phone conversation prior to the FaceTime conversation. But regardless, this next sentence came on Monday night, and I'm so sorry that I cannot always remember chronological every little detail.
That's okay. It's understandable.
There's so much. But I remember he was saying that he was cleaning the house to try to keep busy, to take his mind off of things. And this was on the phone.
So far, Nichol has successfully deflected Kevin Kobach's questioning by insinuating something sinister surrounding Chris's laying on his bed without his bed sheets. She knows that it implies that he was up to no good, but she also knows that she spoke with Chris for nearly 3 hours, and there's something else she's hiding about the morning of the 14th.
I guess that's a point. If she is the mastermind and she's thinking ahead, then yeah, that makes him look really bad. Like, it really seems like what nefarious went on that bed, right? So yeah, that's a good point.
She's praying Detective Kobach won't bring up.
I didn't honestly think that much about it originally, because that man is always cleaning. Like, he's very, very, like, organized, meticulous, clean individual. Like, he's the type of guy that will, like, vacuum his whole house one week, and if there's rooms that don't get used, he'd vacuum again the next week just because.
Yeah, like, this whole situation, I feel like you can, like, read it one way, but then you can come right behind it and be like, oh, but why did he do this? Like, is he the mastermind or isn't he the mastermind? Is he just an idiot flying blind, or is he, what is he? I don't know. But wash the kid sheets, but not his, and the pillow slip. Strange. And then threw some away. But maybe he threw the ones away when he was doing the quick dash around the house while they were all waiting outside. I don't know.
It's like part of his routine.
Okay.
So the fact that he's like cleaning to kill time and take his mind off things did not seem like a super red flag to me.
Every time that Nichol Kessinger is trying to deflect, every time that she is attempting to subvert the truth, she accomplishes this very much like a magician. In one hand, she provides you with a distracting story that very likely has elements of the truth, while at the same time using the other hand to hide whatever it is she doesn't want law enforcement to see. Nichole's comments about Chris doing laundry and the bed sheets sounds incredibly contrived because, again, she's still hoping that Kevin Kobach will not find the one thing that she cannot explain. And I'm not sure if you've noticed yet, but she has still yet to describe what they've talked about in any demonstrable detail.
So anyway, so that didn't seem at all like the norm for me, but something that just kind of like dawned on me last night is he made a comment directly after that. He said, I had to wash the kids' sheets. He was like, they smelled. And I was thinking about that last night, and I'm like, this man keeps that house so clean. That's like the cleanest house I've ever seen. And I'm like, this man keeps that house so clean. Why would his kids' sheets smell bad?
And you think this was Monday night? What time do you think it was Monday night?
Oh God, I don't even know. I almost wish you guys would show me my phone.
So I'm gonna read off your phone calls for Monday.
Oh my God, I just wish you would help me. I'm losing track of all my lies. Just show me.
And Tuesday, starting.
No, it's on Monday.
Okay,
just
so
tell me Monday night.
Monday night, you guys had. We talked about a phone call yesterday, but you guys had a phone call Monday night. It looks like he called you. It was 48 minutes and 57 seconds. It was at 9:48 p.m. that he called you. So that would take us to about 10:35. And then there's another call on Monday. It's for 51 minutes and 25 seconds. It looks like, I'm not sure looking at this who called who, but it looks like you called him. And that was at 11:09 p.m. That lasted 51 minutes. So that takes us to midnight. And then there's another phone call where he calls you. So we're now into midnight, Tuesday morning. It's a 30-minute phone call that lasts.
Well, I just meant like the sheets that he threw away. Because remember when they were searching the house, there were some sheets that they found wherever he threw them. I just think it's weird that he didn't wash them the night that he was washing everything else. Like, why didn't he just left them left them thrown away?
Until 12:38 a.m. And then after 12:38 a.m., there's a 2-minute and 44-second phone call that that starts at 1:12 a.m. It's 2 minutes and 44 seconds.
These are the words of a seasoned professional of deception and deceit. Nichol knows exactly what she said during those phone calls with Chris. We know she does because she will later provide law enforcement with a detailed, exhaustive timeline of the entirety of her relationship with Chris, providing painfully accurate details about events that had occurred weeks and months earlier. But the phone calls Nichol and Detective Kobach are discussing right now just happened 4 days prior. And the reason why this moment matters so much is because of what was happening at 2:07 a.m. the morning of August 14th. Now, I want you to listen to Nichol's answer clearly and without interruption. It's long, but it's important because this is the one and only time that Nichol provides a reconciliation of those conversations. And remember, what you're about to hear satisfied law enforcement, CBI, the FBI, and DA Michael Rourke as a sufficient answer concerning what they discussed for 156.
Before we go into this, I just want to say this is all alleged, all for entertainment and educational purposes. My research, we urge you to go out there and do your own research. And so, yeah, we've got to say that.
6 minutes, less than 24 hours after Chris Watts committed his crimes.
So
I would almost, this is just me, but I would go get my text messages with him from that night, and I would sync them up to that time frame because there was texting in between that. So I think what happened is he called me on that first call, and then there's that gap between the first call and the second call. In that gap, that was when we FaceTimed for a few minutes, and that was when I got up out of bed because I was just having trouble sleeping, and I went and did laundry. That's what I did. I went I just put some clothes in the dryer, and then I think I called him back, and then we continued to talk. So that little gap right there between those two big phone calls at the very beginning of the night, no, not the very beginning of the night, but the big ones at the first two. So in between that gap, there's a quick FaceTime.
So you think that 2 minute and 44 second is the FaceTime?
The one at the very end?
Yeah. Well, so there's
I don't even think the FaceTime's on there.
Okay,
because the FaceTime occurred in between those two big phone calls. That
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
Because it was one big phone call, and then there should have been a FaceTime, and the FaceTime's short. It's only a few minutes, and then there's probably just a few more minutes.
There's a few more calls on Tuesday. So 112 is the 2 minute and 44 second call. That lasts till approximately 114, and then there's a long gap until 150. So another 45 or 35 minutes, and then there's a 7 minute phone call. That phone call lasts till 1:58 a.m. And then there's a 10-second phone call at 2:07 a.m. followed by I think he calls you and maybe leaves a voicemail or something, or you don't pick up. So there's a 10-second call, and then directly after that there's a 10-minute and 24-second phone call.
Oh. Okay, so I'm talking about the two at the very beginning of
the two long
really
ones.
Long one.
And is that when he's talking about the kids'
yes,
sheets?
With the sheet. Okay, so yes. I will help you line this up. I almost want to just come in there and drop and drag all of my texts to where they were going.
And you know what? We may meet and do that here coming early next week.
Did you hear what just happened? Nichol was asked several times about her discussions with Chris during their nearly 3-hour-long phone call, and instead of answering the question, she offers to come down there and help fill in the gaps. And guess what? That never happened. But something very important did happen just before 2 a.m. that night of the 14th. While Nichol was speaking with Chris during the call that began at 1:51 a.m., minutes later at 1:58, Chris began receiving a number of phone calls from the Frederick Police Department. So Chris and Nichol got off the phone, and at 2:05 a.m., Chris returned Officer Ed Goodman's phone call from his work cell phone. But mere seconds later, Nichol Kessinger called Chris's cell phone and stayed on the call while Chris was being interviewed by Officer Goodman.
This is when they couldn't get through to Chris, and it's believed that the officer was on one phone and Nichol Kessinger was on the other listening, right?
Goodman. In the interview we have been listening to between Nichol Kessinger and CBI agent Kevin Kobach took place on the 17th of August, less than 4 days after Nichol eavesdropped on Chris's discussion with law enforcement. And it just happens to be the exact same phone call that would become the very last time that Nichol and Chris would speak again. But I have a question. Why would Nichol want to know what law enforcement was saying? If she was not involved in this crime in any way.
She didn't know anything about anything. Why would she be like on the phone listening? It makes no sense at all. Hi, Heavenly. Hi, Cindy. And hi, James, by the way. Good to see everybody.
Then why would Chris have her on the other line listening in? Remember, Nichol would claim in her first in-person interview that she didn't even suspect Chris of anything until the following day. So knowing what you now know, listen to the very next thing Nichol Kessinger said as Detective Kobach began to press her about these calls.
Yeah, well, all those phone calls at the very end of the night, that was me freaking out. Like, if you look at my text, a lot of that was like, I can't sleep, I'm really scared, where's your family? That was like me freaking out and him calling to like try to reassure me, or me calling him like, please talk to me, I'm super scared, where's your family? Like, those little ones at the very end of the night are me not being able to sleep and trying to get him to like talk to me about like, I guess making sure everything was okay. So those like real late ones, and that's why they're all kind of like sporadic. Because I'd be up for like an hour, and then I'd fall asleep for like 15 minutes, and then I would like wake up and start stressing again and try to call them back. Like, so that's why there are all these like little sporadic ones throughout the end of the night. But those two big ones.
Or you would remember
something.
You would remember something and then call them back that you forgot to say, right? About the Schmurders. Maybe it was that.
Tuesday was mainly text messages regarding your confrontation about his wife being pregnant.
Doesn't all of this start to make a lot more sense now? Because again, if Nichol Kessinger isn't involved.
I'm starting to think that this is going to be one of those ones where it's not really anything new. It's just a new way of looking at the old. So.
Then what would she have to be so scared of? Why is she unable to sleep? Why is she asking Chris to calm her down? If she wasn't involved, then what is she so panicked about? But it's probably not a surprise by now, because immediately after Nichol implicates herself by virtue of her reaction alone, Detective Kobach responds by completely changing the subject. Nichol Kessinger had spent the last 2 months gallivanting around with a man who she knew was married. She never once showed any concern over Shanann's well-being before. In fact, she outright refused to even say her name. But even more importantly than all of that combined is if Nichol was not involved, then she had no reason to suspect that anything had happened to Shanann or the girls during these initial calls.
Oh, shoot. Hold on a second. Sorry, guys, I hit the wrong button. If she truly believed that Shanann had just ran away, then she would have not been worried and made all those phone calls. I wouldn't think. She might be like celebrating and, telling them to come over to her house. I don't know.
Conducted her first in-office interview and previously said this.
Did that strike you as odd? But you're thinking maybe she just left.
I just thought she needed to get away from the situation. I mean, that didn't seem that awkward to me that a couple that is going through separation would be like, I need to leave. I just need some space. It didn't even process. I was like, okay, give her some space.
I really thought she left. I was like, let her fucking go.
No, it was hotter than heck around that time because Chris didn't want to go outside to look around the pool because it was so hot. You could tell. It was didn't he say it was in the 90s or something?
Okay, she'll be all right. Let her cool down. She'll be here. It'll be okay. How do we convince? I think she's just upset. And then.
And it's here that I want to contrast what we've learned against the backdrop of Dylan Tallman's books. After taking the time to read them, there are a few important things that I've learned. I, like many of you, have a healthy dose of suspicion anytime new claims arise from Watts Island. And it's for that reason that I have evaluated Tallman's claims by trying to...
Sitting here with my suspect eyes raised, I got one eyebrow up, I don't know. Is this new stuff or is this new old stuff?
Ascertain if there is any uniformity to the way that he describes Chris Watts. Much of what he conveys is identical to how we know Chris communicates. the way that he speaks through coded religious idioms, and more importantly, the univocal narrative that he provides, which is synonymous with what we already know of Chris Watts. In Tallman's second book, he writes about a discussion that he had with Chris concerning the morning of August 13th. He states, "On the morning of August 13th, I was going to check in with Nichol because we had plans to meet up before work. My plan was to skip work and spend the day with her until all of this transpired. I immediately thought of Nichol, and I thought perhaps we could start over somewhere in North Carolina. But losing my wife made me feel doomed, alone, especially the thought of losing my mistress too. So I met up with Nichol where we were supposed to rendezvous on the way to work. She was so calm about the whole situation. She told me to just go to work like I was supposed to, and she asked me about the girls. We talked it over for a while, and we decided that we could make it look like they went missing. Now, if this account is to be believed, it would mean that on the morning of August 13th, Chris not only met with Nichol, but that she helped encourage and direct him on how to cover it up." Tallman's
So that would take out the theory that Nichol actually did the girls, right? Because if she was asking about the girls, because I've always heard that she was the one that did it, like Chris couldn't do it or whatever. So that would take out that theory that he just simply met with her and she knew what had happened, I guess, right?
next segment goes on to say, when Chris was asked what they decided to do with Shanann after he had already committed his crimes against her, Nichol responded by saying that she would take care of it. Later on, Tallman confronts Chris and asks him if he had any help in the commission of the crimes against the girls. Chris responds by saying, "Yes, I did." Tallman asks him, "Did Jezebel help you?" Chris sighed, and eventually he responded, "Yes."
Okay, well then that makes no sense then. Why would she meet up with him and ask about the girls if she helped with the girls? Am I just hung up here on something, or am I missing something? Because I haven't been feeling the best, so I might be missing something here.
Over the last 6 years, so many of us have quietly watched and listened to the countless cover it up. Tallman's next segment goes on to say, when Chris was asked what they decided to do with Shanann after he had already committed his crimes against her, Nichol responded by saying that she would take care of it. Later on, Tallman confronts Chris and asks him if he had any help in the commission of the crimes against the girls. Chris responds by saying, "Yes, I did." Tallman asks him, "Did Jezebel help you?" Chris sighed, and eventually he responded, "Yes." Over the last 6 years, so many of us have quietly watched and listened to the countless documentaries and iterations of this case. Every single time we are reminded of these moments, we grieve with her family, knowing the unimaginably heavy price they continue to pay for a crime that should just never have happened. This retrospective is our way of continuing to advocate for justice for the people who matter most in this case, Shanann, Bella, Cece, and Nico. But we also want to remember all of the victims of violent crime that happens all over the world. This case is represented.
Amen to that. Okay, so like I said, we don't watch everything. I will put the link down in the YouTube show notes. Let's move on. I guess I am still hung up on that like, why would they meet and talk about it if he did it and she helped it anyway. So yeah, I don't think we're truly going to know. And that's what drives me crazy. Like, it drives me crazy to think that if she did something and she's out there free. Like, I've been watching a lot on the Kurt Cobain thing, and I truly believe that Courtney Love did something, and this is all my opinion, alleged. Well, yeah. So, she has made millions off of that man. And if I truly, like, I'm more sure about Courtney and Kurt than I am about Chris and Jezebel. So and she has made so much money off of him, off of his blood, sweat, and tears. And she's in control. Her and Frances Bean, they're in control. I mean, Frances Bean didn't have anything to do with it, but I mean, life is so unfair. All right, that's life. That's, I guess, what I'm getting at. Life is freaking unfair. But I know I'm singing to the choir, preaching to the choir. Okay. All right. So let's keep going. I did see That's My Opinion did something. Was Nichol Kessinger involved? This is a new content creator that I haven't seen before. So let's see what they have to say about this.
With a fresh perspective that is all opinion based.
We like fresh perspectives, and if the opinion is a reasonable opinion, maybe we can get behind this.
Let's just get that right out of the way. In this video, we'll deep dive into Kessinger's story, breaking down her statements, timelines, and actions to reveal inconsistencies that might change the way that we view this case. And at the end of the video, I will give you some bombshell claims that honestly blew my own mind. If you aren't familiar with this case, I will give you a short synopsis right now. However, I do have a deep dive on my channel, and we'll link it in the description box down.
So we're going to fast forward to the synopsis because we all pretty much know the synopsis. Let's try to find where she's starting to talk about NK and Chris Watts.
2018 Shanann.
Be sure to give this live a thumbs up. Helps us go out into the algorithm. And if you like my Watts content, it would really, really make my day if you shared on your community tab. That would be amazing. Or we're coming to you today on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So however you share to the platform you're on, that would be wonderful.
Her daughters would fly to North Carolina to be with family. And this is when everything really takes off for Nichol and Chris. End of June or early July, they meet at a park near her house for the first time. They're talking
never too late, always right on time. It's good to see you.
Single day. In July of 2018, Chris and Nichol start a physical relationship. Now, in an interview on August 15th, Nichol Kessinger states, and I quote, that this is one of the few times I had been in public with Chris Watts. But in that same interview, she claims that they traveled to the sand dunes during the week of the 4th of July. Friday, July 6th and Saturday, July 7th, they go to...
So we know that they hung out at the sand dunes. I pulled up the actual sand dune photos, oddly enough, because I was in the mood to watch them. I hadn't seen the photos in a while. You remember the photos of when they went to the dunes? While the family was vacationing in North Carolina, he and Nichol enjoyed a trip to the sand dunes in Colorado.
Carve it up. There you go, baby. You're so damn sexy.
So yeah, that one. Do you remember?
Movie theater attempted to see Jurassic Park. The show is sold out. Then they walk to a beach near Victoria's Secret and talk there outside in public for 2 hours. Saturday, July 14th, they go to the Shelby Mustang Museum around other people in public. July 21st, 2018, they go to the Bandimere Speedway. Prior to that, they go to a rooftop bar in Morrison where they have lunch together. July 28th and July 29th, they go to the Great Sand Dunes National Monument. They then go on to Colorado Springs and have lunch at BJ's. And on August 11th, they go to the Lazy Dog Bar. Yes, seems like very...
One of the only few times, just one of the many few times many times. One of the many times. Oh, few times. Many few times.
A few public outings. July 4th. This is comical to me. So we have to go back to July 4th because I swore to you I was going to go by a timeline. So July 4th, Nichol Kessinger goes to the Watts home for the only time, the first time, because Kessinger states the only time she visits the Watts home is the second weekend.
I wonder what the pictures, what Chris Watts was sending, what his pictures, like the D pics that he was sending to her, because she was just so disgusted by him. She deleted everything. It was a murder investigation, but she was just so disgusted she had to delete everything.
End of July. But in another interview, she states that this would be the first time that she would go to the house. In a separate interview, she claimed that she was only there briefly both times. And in another interview, she would tell the police that she was there sitting on the floor in their living room, looking around, setting up a fitness app where Chris cooked her chicken and carrots for lunch. So yes,
sitting on wet carpet, those were the good old romantic days, I'm sure.
That's the idea of brief. What that means to you.
And a horrible feeling when you sit on wet carpet and your butt gets wet and then it starts like feeling itchy. That's just a horrible feeling.
What that means to me is very different. July 14th, they go to the Shelby American Collection Car Museum. She drives to his home in her Toyota 4Runner and claims that she went into the house and this was the second time that she went there. And I would like to know where you parked and how you entered the house because they had a Ring doorbell. So how did you skip the cameras? She also stated that this was...
Well, Chris Watts played with the doorbell. Weren't there problems happening with all of the electronics? Like the device on the garage door was acting up and there was something going on with the Ring doorbell too. And I think she said that she entered through the garage. Well, anyway.
The day that she had her Mother Teresa change of heart. This man has a gorgeous house. He has a gorgeous wife. He has gorgeous children. Why would you ever want to give all that up?
For me.
And then she claimed, and I quote, find a way to fix this and make it work. However, from this day until the day that the tragedy occurred, she continues to barrage him with nude photos, sleep with him, and go on dates with him. And her behavior, compared to what she says, tells me that in no way is she interested in him working things out with his wife. But then on July 21st, they go on another date, even though she's had this change of heart, to the Bandimere Speedway and watch drag races. And on July 24th of 2018, we have Nichol Kessinger's Google history. Man I'm having an affair with says he'll leave his wife, which is a very interesting search history after you've told the police that he was separated and finalizing a divorce. So by definition, this is not an affair. So Nichol backed away a bit so he would try to fix his relationship with Shanann. That was important to her. And I would like to know what backing away means for her, because to me, it means backing away from the situation in its entirety. We're going to cut off communications. We're going to stop sleeping with them. We're going to stop going on dates with them. And she did none of these things. Okay, great. July 25th, Chris is on the phone with Shanann, and this might be one of my favorite reports. During that conversation, Kessinger called Watts and left a voicemail following, and I quote, an eerily disconcerting childlike giggle. She told Watts, I miss your face, and I was just calling you to say hi, call me back. I will try to insert these in here, but I have to tell you every time I've heard them.
Hi. It's me. I miss your face. I was just calling to say hi.
Sorry, that never gets old for me. It just never does.
Call me back.
And again, she was so concerned about his marriage and the state that it was in.
The cringe is always there. I mean, if you want a quick laugh, a quick cringe, a quick you just listen to it and it's right there for you. You got everything.
He had an overnight with him at the Great Sand Dunes National Park from July 28th to July 29th. Nichol talked about a phone conversation that she had with Chris Watts prior to him leaving for North Carolina. And during the conversation, she said that she tried to convince Chris to fix his relationship with Shanann. Nichol said that she wanted to know that Chris had done what he could to repair his relationship prior to her coming into his life, which would be very noble of her if that was true. We know that on July 30th, Chris Watts gives Nichol Kessinger a love note. And on July 30th, we also know that Kessinger leaves a voicemail in these reports. And I quote, intermixed with her creepy giggles. And she asked Watts to call her back. And I am just wondering if you...
I love that they put in creepy giggles.
Leave creepy giggle messages for all of your friends. And we know that on July 31st, Chris Watts goes to North Carolina to be with Shanann and his daughters. And Kessinger tells the police that Chris claims he will try to fix his...
I always have weird voice messages when people call me, like the voice message. When you call me, my voice messages are always weird. Like I've been at getting my car fixed, and they've played my voice message over the loudspeaker, so I can get doing weird stuff because I do the weird stuff, but I wouldn't do like weird creepy giggles to like somebody I was interested in. I might do it to a friend, but I don't think I'd do it to someone I was interested in.
Relationship, but Shanann refuses. Nichol says, and I quote, I thought I had convinced him to make peace with her. And I was like, if you guys are going to work on this, like, I'm out, because what's the point? But through the entirety of the trip, we know that Chris and Nichol speak frequently while he's there. And he goes into the basement to call her while his family is upstairs. On August 2nd of 2018, we have Chris Watts transferring an image into a secret calculator application. And we also have police note under it that says, I'm certain Watts communicated far more with Kessinger that is reflected on his phone data, perhaps facilitated through the secret calculator app. It became apparent that he was receiving assorted nude images of Kessinger that she was taking by herself and sending to Watts, which then he stashed in that application to prevent Shanann from ever seeing them. And then in the report, we have Watts transferring so many images, which tells us that Kessinger...
I'm surprised we only got the few images that we did get, right? If there were so many images, like... I didn't know you could wipe your iPhones out like that and not get everything on the iPhone. It's just interesting because they only got those ugly brown bikini photos, right?
Is just sending nude after nude after.
No, there's the sunflowers and others, yeah.
Or
like
what
the nude photos? I don't know.
Whatever picture it is. On August 3rd, we know through reports that Watts has transferred more images of Kessinger into his secret calculator app, which would imply to the police that she is, in fact, sending more pictures. August 4th, while continuing to talk to him every day and just, telling the police that she wants him to work it out with his wife, she is at home searching for 2 hours to dose wedding dresses. Now, I don't claim to be smart, but I got a couple pebbles in here that could put a couple things together. And something ain't adding up. But she also states in another report, and I quote, I told him, I really try to take everything slow with this whole situation. Very slow. You saw him for the first time outside of work at the end of June, and by August 4th, you're looking up wedding dresses.
If you believe that was when they first met.
August 7th is when we find out that Nichol was talking to Charlotte Nelson, her quote-unquote best friend. And Nichol tells her friend that their relationship was very positive. And she was very positive about Watts. She was enjoying their relationship. She states that when Chris returned home from North Carolina, he and Nichol spoke by phone. And Chris told Nichol that Shanann was preparing to finalize their divorce. And we now know that on August 8th, even though Kessinger had told the police that their relationship was not that serious, it's not that deep, searched on Google topics related to marrying your mistress. In a statement to police, she tried to separate herself from Chris and said, I only saw him a few times since he got back. He wanted to see me more, but I needed space. He gets back from North Carolina on the 7th. He goes back to work on the 8th. He comes to your house on the 8th. You guys go on a date on the 11th. And then everything horrific happens on the 12th and 13th. Out of 5 days, you saw him twice and continued to correspond with him every single day. I'm confused as to where the space is. We know for a fact that on August 9th, Shanann leaves for Arizona for her.
Is because when Shanann and the girls were in North Carolina, he slept at her house, didn't he? Almost every night. He didn't sleep at home. So, and they weren't having as much sex as they were. She said they went from doing it 5 times a day to 3 or something. I don't know. It was still quite a bit, but it wasn't as much.
Business trip. And after she leaves for her trip and leaves the girls with Chris, on Saturday, August 11th, Chris hires a babysitter to go to the Lazy Dog with Nichol Kessinger. And Nichol Kessinger, and I quote, anytime his kids could be in like his life for hours or for days whenever they were home, I made sure I wasn't a presence in life so he could be the best dad that he needed to be. But at the Lazy Dog, Chris makes it clear that he is now filing from divorce from Shanann. So Shanann didn't want it and Chris wanted it, but then Shanann didn't want it, but Shanann was finalizing it, but then Chris was filing for it. And we never get an answer from Nichol on who's filing or who's ending or when it's ending. We don't have any text messages to go by.
If the filing was truly happening, she would know. She would have it all in order. She would know what was going on. She would.
On maybe what they talked about or their whereabouts. However, we do have Nichol Kessinger's Google search.
She knew how many condoms were in his box or the expiration date or something. She would know. She would know.
On topics like, this is for 18 years and older, how to prepare for butt stuff. Yeah, I bet you wish you deleted that when you deleted all those text messages. On August 12th, we have text messaging between Nichol Kessinger and her best friend, Charlotte Nelson, where she tells Charlotte Nelson explicit details about their intimate life. She also states, I feel like I will always be second place. Like he's been there, done that. It's early though. We will see, she says. He seems too good to be true. And at this point, this is what you're telling your best friend. Now, Nichol tells the police that Chris Watts tells her on August 12th that he will not be coming into the office on Monday and he will be going straight to the field. And we have a phone call between them at 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., but she cannot recall any details from this phone call. Yet in the discovery,
he's going to go into the phone calls where we were just at. So, let's see what she says to wrap it up.
Didn't think about your web history. No, because we have that. Where on August 14th, you searched. Can cops trace text messages? How long do phone companies keep text messages? Difference between text message content and text message detail. Can you get a printout of text messages? On August 16th, we know that the bodies...
awful shady things to Google if you don't have anything to do with anything. And why are you so worried about your text messages, Nichol?
Of Shanann, Celeste, and Bella were found, and Nichol Kessinger has another interview in which her father is present for. Now, she is not a minor and he is not a lawyer, so I'm very confused as to why he was able to sit in on this conversation. Because I'm pretty sure if I got pulled down to the police station right now for a quadruple homicide,
I'm pretty sure there were some good old boy undercurrent strings being pulled in this case. That's my guess.
Just let me grab one of my girlfriends and go in, or a parent, because I'm 39 years old. Now, Nichol speaks to police before this interview and consented to them taking her phone. And yet during this interview, she's still reluctant to give them her phone. And I quote, I really want to help you guys. I do. I feel like this whole thing is going to be crazy regardless of whether I give you my phone or not. That's kind of how I look at it. She also states in this interview, okay, on the same day that Shanann and the girls were found, when asked about why Chris would have hurt his children, she said the only thing I could think of was that the kids may have seen him killing Shanann, so he chose to kill them as well, which is almost identical to one of the variations that Chris gave to the police about what happened.
Very identical. That's a good point.
Who knows? Maybe she's a medium. She also states in this interview that Nichol knew of no other stressors than finding.
She looked into her crystals and her crystals told her.
circumstances, yet was able to give them a 7-page dissertation on why Chris Watts did not want to save his marriage with Shanann. We also know that on this day, Nichol Kessinger spent nearly 4 hours searching Google and the internet for Watts news outlets and news accounts of Shanann's disappearance. And these are all deleted, which to me would be perfectly reasonable to search what everybody is saying. Why would you delete that? If I knew somebody who was missing or I was in an investigation like that, you bet your ass I would be searching the internet for everything. But you delete that. I bet you wish you deleted the one on butt stuff, don't you? August 13th, while she's still in the process of giving the police interviews, because the reports that I have compiled, all this information range from between August 15th and August 27th. But August 19th, Nichol Kessinger searched the internet for topics related to Amber Frey.
Ooh, she's bringing it home.
If you're not familiar with who Amber Frey is, Scott Peterson is another convicted family annihilator. He killed his pregnant wife and their unborn baby. And Amber Frey is the woman that he was having an affair with at the time. Now, she searches topics related to Amber Frey, such as Amber Frey's book deal, her net worth, and my personal favorite, did people hate Amber Frey? And like I said in my last video, no, we do not, because Miss Amber Frey called the police immediately and handed over absolutely everything, never deleting anything, because she
in fact helped and tricked him, kept talking to him on the phone, knowing that he did that to his wife. Ugh.
He had nothing to hide. So there's a difference.
Huge difference.
If you are wondering what the group consensus is, Amber Frey is a queen. At this point, Chris Watts was charged, pled guilty, and has been convicted and will spend the rest of his life.
Okay, so the information appears to be more like she did it, and let's look at some of the same old stuff, but look at it closer. So that seems to be happening. But I do see like the point of like the first, except I'm really hung up about why did he meet her if she helped? Like why did she ask about the kids if she helped? So I'm kind of hung up there. But
I was standing by my window on a cold and cloudy day when I saw that hearse come rolling for to carry my mother away. I told the undertaker